Good morning once again, and thank you for staying with us. Welcome to the Twitter Jabs too. My name is Agi Uwase, and we are continuing the conversation in regard to the Makerere University Guild election woes. Now, like we mentioned earlier on the Twitter Jabs one, this comes at a time when the Makerere University student leaders petitioned the leader of opposition in Parliament, Honorable Matthias Mpuuga, challenging, the decision by the University Council to put a halt on guild elections, but also the university management of this particular council that was put in place to ensure that the electoral process in Makerere University is reviewed and new reforms put into place. They did talk yesterday. They did challenge this move by the student leaders to petition the leader of opposition in Parliament, and also further went on to say that some of these students are masqueraders but not student leaders at Makerere University. So these are some of the concerns that we will be talking about on the Twitter Jabs too. And sitting right here with me is Council Senkezi Stephen Sally, who is a city lawyer, and he will be weighing in on the matter in regard to the Makerere University Guild election woes that have, been taking place, for quite some time now. And we hope that maybe in the near future that new reforms or maybe even solutions should be availed at Makerere University. Good morning, Council, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, and thanks for hosting me.
Well, we're happy to have you. To start with, what are the recommended guild election laws and processes?
At Makerere University, the laws are very clear and well suited because they've actually come up with several laws, like the Makerere University Students Guild Constitutional Election Regulations.
Yes. That
is the topmost because it supersedes all the other laws. It has been gazetted it suits the circumstances of a higher institution of learning like Makerere.
But in the event, like the event that happened on the 14th of July when Makerere Tungura lost his life during the guild campaigns, can these laws be can they be looked into to see that maybe new reforms can be made?
Of course, it's very important to look into laws wherever a situation arises, because law does not operate in a vacuum. It operates on particular circumstances. It must suit the circumstances it's supposed to operate in. And only that sometimes we overreact, sometimes we panic, sometimes we even fail to think when we are trying to address a situation, and we end up coming up with unfortunate incidences. Yeah.
Okay, looking at what happened on the 14th of July, the reports are there were two camps, the Forum for Democratic Change camp and the NUP camp, who got into an altercation at the Makerere University rugby grounds, which resulted into Makerere Tungura being stabbed and eventually losing his death. So talking about political parties, do you think that political parties improve or deter proper guild elections, especially in the case of Makerere University?
I believe that they improve because the university is a training ground. People are not going to be competing at university level for the rest of their life. They will be there for a season. Then when they are prepared well, they will go out. And when they go out, it's going to have a big and wider impact. So political parties, I believe that they improve. They improve.
But in this case, we are seeing that this has resulted into violence because two factions cannot actually, live harmoniously or maybe carry on the guild election campaigns harmoniously, knowing that, well, there's two of us competing, but at the end of the day, one person has to win. So if they are not in position to work together to see that they finally get a guild president and they resort to violence, then are they actually helping the electoral process or they are failing it?
If they cannot work together at that level, then how about at other levels? Because if you say they cannot work together here, then we should ban them. That means that you're going to ban them at every other level and in every other campus, which should not be the case. I believe that is a very unfortunate way of handling the situation. Maybe what can be, because now look at it this way. This was a student from another university,
yes,
coming to participate in the election, in the campaigns in another university. But then they have something in common. They belong to the same political party. Just like one can move from one constituency to another to support that person. So I believe if it's allowed at the national level, it can also be allowed here. But the regulators should fulfill their responsibilities. You don't leave it to the students completely. Are they saying that there were no security personnel around? Are they saying that it was only these people in the altercation, as you call it? No. There were other people. They could have prevented it in the legal regime available, in the circumstances available. That's what
Speaking of this, who are the regulators in place at Makerere University in particular?
At Makerere University, it's the council that sets the regulations, but then the body, the Electoral Commission, is mainly made up of students. Apart from the legal advisor, who is a staff and a qualified advocate, but it's mainly the students. That's why it's very unfortunate, and I would really support these kids, to the students, when they come up to challenge the appointment of this committee or group that they came up with to review, because it doesn't have any representation of the students. These are students' affairs, and they are mainly handled by the students.
Do you think in this case that also the political party leadership, let's talk about Forum for Democratic Change, NUP, have an influence on these students? Because after this incident happened, the Member of Parliament of Kasanda South, Honorable Frank Kabuye, was actually arrested alongside others, but they were released later. So are these political leaders on the members of Parliament and, on the other factions, NUP, FDC, Democratic Party, do you think they actually have influence on the students?
You cannot deny that, and we cannot say that it is bad in case it is happening, because some of them, yes, they are political leaders, but what is the major reason they've gotten involved? Have they always been participating? Maybe it's because this time they have a relative, a friend, or maybe they have more say in their political parties. We need to look at more questions than just that one of being affiliated to a political party.
So a student lost their life. To be particular, the student was from Uganda Christian University, just like you mentioned earlier. So having seen this incident happen, does this tantamount to the University Council banning physical guild elections? Because even at the moment, the student leadership is, what they're talking about is we need to go on with the physical elections. We don't think we want virtual elections. And that is a proposal that the University Council is still working on at the moment. It's not yet into effect. So do you think that this is the right solution after that incident?
I believe it is not the best. I believe it's not the best, and because right now, given that they have a time within which they have to operate, to conduct elections, they should have looked for a very quick approach to the situation. Now, when you ban physical elections, remember, even during the real mix of the COVID situation, that's when they first came up with virtual elections. And it had its advantages, because people were studying in shifts and all that. It worked, but you see, it also had disadvantages. Not everyone could vote from wherever they are. The system could not be trusted that it was going to work well and be on all the time. So unless they have addressed that, we can. And also, we are preparing students for national politics. If they go virtual and they train only in virtual, how is it going to help them when they go out on the national arena? I don't think it is good, either in the short run or even in the long run.
So what would be the feasible solution to this to this problem in particular, since you are talking about, you see, the physical virtual elections may not be effective in the case of Makerere University, since you're preparing students for, bigger positions or bigger election campaigns later on in future. What are the feasible solutions that the university could actually put into place?
I believe, one, they should convince themselves that they should go both virtual and physical. That's number one. Number two, they should they should increase the security measures they have so that not everyone can access campus. You know, like their laws say that you cannot have campaigns at Kabanyoro Farm hostel. You see, if they have that, then they can also come up with other laws. You cannot, not every, they say on such and such a day, you can't be allowed 1 or 2 people. Like when people are going for national elections, they say you come with this number of people for nomination. Others will stay there, and then even then they should come up with something like that to engender both physical and virtual voting.
Okay, so last week the student leadership sat with the University Council, and they were talking about you need to allow us hold our guild elections. And they said they actually gave the University Council an ultimatum of 2 weeks that in case, you know, nothing is done about if a quick solution is not given to them, then they will hold elections on their own. Is it allowed in any way that, is it possible that actually the university students can hold guild elections on their own without approval?
Someone once told me that you cannot stop a bird from flying over your head, but you definitely can stop it from building a nest in your hair. So you can't stop people from thinking or attempting to implement their thoughts. But one should know that elections world over, they are governed by specific laws. The responsibilities are given to specific agencies or departments. Now, when it comes to Makerere, there are organs that are charged with this responsibility. And if the students, if it is the Guild Representative Council, GRC, which has come up with the Electoral Commission, with the Electoral Commission, and then the Electoral Commission with due mandate goes ahead to conduct these elections, it's understandable. But if you want to do it outside the established procedure, you're just wasting time. You're becoming a nuisance, actually. Is
it the students or the guild, the University Council?
Not the university. Of course, you're under the University Council because it has to sanction all these actions, and you know, it has monetary implications and all that. Yeah, but it's mainly the students. So it shouldn't be one side at the exclusion of the other. It should be that all of them are playing together to make sure that these elections happen and they go on smoothly. Okay,
what if, okay, we are talking of in the event of the University Council just zeroes down their decision to virtual elections, and the students do not agree to this, what should we anticipate, or what would happen?
Where it engenders absurdities, injustice to a section, and it can be held to be substantial. It can be even challenged in the courts of law. It can be challenged in the courts of law. When you go to the courts of law, that's when you get a sure and lasting solution. Yes, today they have approached the leader of opposition's office. I think it's because his FDC and the person who died is FDC, so they imagine that he will come in with force and all that, but I don't see much legal effect from there. Although you can score on other fronts with that. But they can go legal, and this decision, you know, because it has happened before in several other, even other universities, and they declare one candidate and they say no, it was the other, and then they challenge it in court, and there's a judicial review, because this is a public institution. You can go for judicial review, and then if you satisfy the requirements, yes.
Okay, the other day, the university leaders met the leader of opposition in parliament, Honorable Mpuuga, and he subscribes to the NUP party. Do you think it was the right move for the students to, you know, petition the leader of opposition?
It was a desperate move. And it can't be totally wrong. It can't be totally wrong.
Well, it can't be totally wrong, and you also talk about it was a desperate move. Does that mean that the University Council is not, you know, heeding to their woes, heeding to their, you know, grievances, and that is why they're resorting to, you know, going to the leader of opposition?
Probably that's how they perceive it. They imagine that they'll get more weight if they involve someone at that level. to help them, because at the end of the day, the decision will have to be taken at the university. So they are going to him so that he can carry their concerns to the right place where they're supposed to be.
Yes, and some people yesterday were talking about the only reason why the student leaders talked to the leader of opposition is because actually the members who were there, they subscribed to the NUP party, and they said maybe it's because the leader of opposition is also an NUP party member. Do you think that's the reason, or they just thought that maybe they trusted that he can actually, you know, petition or take their petition to Parliament, and it's actually worked on, and eventually they get their grievances sorted?
I believe that if you want something to go through Parliament, then you would go you would go through the topmost, maybe the speaker. But by the time you go through the leader, you know that probably he will be the first one to give you an ear. He'll be the first one to move to help you. So maybe they were like, we need a quick response, and this one will move faster than any other person.
Oh, this is our person.
It's something like that. He'll easily identify with us.
With us.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, and I think he actually did, because he talked about we don't want to see Makerere University, a great institution, being run like a kindergarten. Well, moving away from that, you talked about the other feasible solution is for the students to actually go to the courts of law. But at the moment, the custodian or the current guild president is the 87th guild president, Shamim Nambasa, and right now the students are supposed to be having the 88th guild president. So, and when it comes to not the constitution, but the courts of law in Uganda, the processes usually take long. Yeah. So maybe the students actually have no confidence in the courts of law, or they think maybe this petition will actually take longer than they anticipate. So do you think that it can be worked on as soon as the students want it to be worked on?
Because it was on the 15th of July,
yes,
that this committee was formed. It was given a term of 1 month. We should ideally be running out on the 14th. So if they gave an ultimatum of 2 weeks, then it should be fitting within that time. And I believe the university leadership should be working round the clock to make sure that they address this situation, that they don't create more absurdities. It is raising a lot of concern and debate around. You don't want to be the subject of debate on the wrong issues all the time. So I'm sure they will.
Okay, yes. So now let's talk about what other avenues do the students have on challenging the university's decisions. We saw one of them is they headed to the leader of opposition in Parliament, but what are those other avenues?
The other avenue would be to approach the university council, but you see, the question is how?
But they did.
Or what do you expect from there at this point after having tried it before and them having taken this step of coming up with these people? One of the things I would advise is maybe that they should cooperate fully with this board that's been created. But then the problem is that it doesn't have a representative of the students.
Exactly.
It doesn't have a representative of the students. So I think maybe the first thing would be to challenge the existence and the functioning of this board. But you see, every time you do that, you're prolonging the process. And remember, one of the resolutions they came up with was to suspend the guild and the GRC, all those. They suspended all of them. So you're creating a power vacuum. You're creating it for an uncertain period.
The students feel left out because why are you excluding the student leadership from the council? Because at the end of the day, if the guild election resolutions are to be met, these involve the students. They are the ones who are going to vote. They're the ones going to, to stand for the leadership positions. So is it right that actually the university council excludes the guild leadership from that council?
It is not right. It is not right, and I don't know who advised them to come up with such a thing. You see, when you look at the credentials of the people they put there, yeah, they are good. But then we are saying these good people should have been joined by students with an equally good reputation. People who can bring the concerns of the students and fight for their cause and make you understand what is outside your generation. Yes.
So, do you think this is an issue in the university management? I'm talking about the top management, because they are seeing all these things transpire. They formed the council, excluding the students. So what does this say about the top management of the university?
Well, there are schools of thought about the top management. There are people who think that the top management does not want to listen to a section, that will not accord audience to others, and there are those who think like that. And when you look at this situation, probably it lends credence to that argument, that they think that these are people to take in whatever we give them, which is wrong. And that's when I can agree with the Honorable Matthias Mpuuga that they're running it like a kindergarten. That the kids, the people who are affected by your decisions do not have to contribute to the decisions, and that is very wrong. That's insulting.
Yes, it's not only insulting. I feel like it definitely does not. If they are trying to, you know, put down all the issues because Makerere University has so many issues, this cannot be one of the ways that, you know, they eliminate all the issues at Makerere University. For me as an individual, I would think that let them involve the student council so that at least they get, you know, decisions from both sides, put them on the table and agree on a way forward. That's what I would think. But moving forward, in the event that the Guild Council is not elected as soon as possible, what happens? Does Shamim Nambasa and our government continue as the leadership of the university, or everything freezes at the moment?
The thing is that what they did is they suspended them.
Yes.
They did not give the period of suspension. They suspended all of this. And right now, as matters stand, there seems to be a vacuum in the leadership of the students. So if it takes long, it means that the vacuum stays longer. The vacuum stays longer. We cannot say that those ones who have been kicked out of office, they're the ones in office.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Will
the vacuum actually even stay, given the history of Makerere University? I was at Makerere University, I don't know if you were, and you know, when it comes to Makerere University, students want what they want. Do you think that the vacuum will actually stay, or they will, you know, resort to other means of ensuring that their grievances are sorted? Yeah,
I was at Makerere University and I thank God for that. But what I was saying is that, what I want to say in response to that is that there are two ways of looking at that. There's the legal lens and then the factual lens. So the students may come up and do something and show you their leaders. They say these ones have refused to stand up for us, to champion our cause. We are throwing them aside, we've elected these ones. Oh yes, the leaders we appointed that the university recognized, they've rallied, we are rallying behind them and they are leading us well, so we confirm that they are our leaders. There's that factual one. Then there's a legal one. There's the legal one. Will it have any legal effect when the ones who are supposed to stamp it legally are saying there's nothing?
Well, let's talk about the role of the guild leadership in universities, or guild elections in universities, and their importance. What are those? What are their roles, their particular roles, and their importances?
First and foremost, the leadership, the guild leadership, it gives the students. It has so many benefits and roles, and I'll mix all of them. Yes. It gives identity. It gives identity to the university because and it also helps to nurture the talents of the leaders, and it also lends credence to the leadership. Then also it helps the management in implementing many of its policies and selling them to the students. It brings about smoothness in running of the institution.
When do the guild council or guild elections become a threat to a university? Let's talk about in the event of 14th of July. But even what are those other threats that the university could actually see from the guild council or the guild elections?
I think most threats are only perceived. People are running away from shadows. there's more to benefit from guild leadership than there is to lose or fear. Yeah, that's what I believe. But you see, every time you fire up a situation, when you attack someone, they have it's natural for them to fight back or try to defend themselves.
Yes.
And that's when they will look around for support. And when they do that, because you know, in this digital age and era, people connect with outsiders. And when they do, a group comes from another university. Right now, I was listening to the radio list and I was saying we have over 50-something universities around.
Yes.
And all these people have got, they've got organizations that where they connect as leaders. So they will rally people from other universities, and before you know it, there's a lot of chaos around. So for me, I think that there's more to gain than to lose or fear. That's number one. Number two, but the only threats can come when you mishandle this situation, and they have to fight for survival.
Well, over the years, we have seen that the guild councils at Makerere University are always at loggerheads with the management. Do you think the university management, why is it always at loggerheads with the student leadership? Do they perceive, you talked about maybe they perceive them as a threat, or maybe there are other underlying issues?
Sometimes it is egos. That is why the other time you were talking about people who think that the top management does not want to listen to them. So their egos, listen to me, I will not listen to you. Then sometimes it can be, and I'm not saying this is what is happening at the Great Makerere, but I'd say that sometimes it could be that there are divisions up there and one is fomenting the situation around. And so then the other thing is that when you're young, when you're young, you live in an idealistic world.
Okay.
You live in an idealistic world, and it's easy for you to demand for this, have a right for this, and insist on the other, and reject this and that. And then there are people like, no, because of that difference in the age gap, it also brings some issues, I believe. Or
maybe it's the fact that, you know, Makerere University students always have grievances, and the university never meets them halfway. The reason I'm saying this is because in the past, when Makerere University students want something and the management is not willing to give them whatever they are asking for, they resort to strikes. And then we see 2 weeks down the road, you know, the Makerere University management now, you know, puts into effect what the students are asking for. So is it about the fact that maybe the students always have their grievances and they are not met, and they resort to these other measures, and eventually they're always at loggerheads with the student rather the topmost leadership?
Two things I would like to put out of your statement. When you say Makerere University, it's as if it is specific to Makerere. I think it is something that happens wherever there there's a community of that description. That's number one. Number two, when you say always have grievances. No, there are grievances every now and then. And you see, the thing is that I thank God that it is not always the first step that they take. But you see, this country has gotten so much at that base level of the leaders understanding only one language. They understand either violence or strikes or something like that. If you don't do that, they don't want to address this. They don't want to entertain anything you're telling them.
The reason I'm saying that Makerere University grievances, and you know I'm echoing it, is the fact that, well, I was there, I firsthand experienced that. But then again, when you look at all the other universities, Makerere University Business School, Gulu University, and all the other universities, we have about 50 of them. It's always Makerere University in the news for a different reason, and sometimes it can happen in the space of 2 weeks. The other week, you know, they're talking about the guild elections. This week, they're talking about topmost management having factions in between them. So, okay, let's talk about why Makerere University always, you know, having all these things coming.
Well, for me, like I was telling you, that I believe it's this generation, there's that feeling of entitlement. there's that feeling of entitlement. And you see, looking at most universities around, Makerere, it is like the students, the majority who go there, the first people that they admit are the people who have qualified. They are on merit. It's not that I'm paying or what.
Yeah.
They fill their job forms and they get there, and then they're like, it should be better than it has always been when my parents were the ones paying for me. Now they feel that sense of entitlement. And then when you bring about the private students, they're like, but hey, we are paying, we should get better or equal to these people. And I believe because there's that situation which is unique to Makerere and a few other universities where you have both privately sponsored students and government sponsored students. It brings about that situation. But then we should not think that it is the first step that they always take to strike. The first approach, when they start it's not yielding results, that's when they usually go to that other step.
Okay, besides the Guild student councils, what other student structures are suitable for universities?
There should be leadership at every level. The faculty, school or college levels, then the halls of residence, then also the description of the students, because we've got sports, the sports community, we have got privately sponsored, we've got government sponsored students. There should be all these leaderships, and then also maybe cultural institutions. And I talked about academic units. Yeah.
Okay. Besides the student councils, you've already talked about other structures that can be put into place. But let's again talk about the Makerere University Guild election rules as we wind up the conversation. Yeah. What solutions or what feasible solutions can be put into place by the university management to ensure that once and for all this problem, this grievance is actually put to an end?
One, I believe that the university should intentionally educate the student community on what elections are. This is not a do or die situation. That's number one. Number two, people should be the laws should be made known universally to all the students to know about all these things. And like during the orientation week, there should be an adequate slot given to that, and there should be continuation of this thing because it is during the second semester. So during the first semester they should be laying some very good background, and then also they should put in place structures and policies to deter outsiders from getting involved, because many of the walls of Makerere University are created by the surrounding communities.
Yes.
And it's not a very easy situation because many students stay outside, and those who stay outside stay near the university.
The university, yes.
And you find that because they're privately sponsored, some of them engage in some work. So maybe if you're a border rider, and then you come in the evening, then you have these border riders of yours that you connect with, and then they can come and support you here and there. They want one of them to succeed. So if they can have something to deter outsiders from joining, unless they have been properly allowed by the administration, then that will really help.
Okay, Mr. Sally, would like to get your final remarks in regard to this conversation that we've been carrying.
Yeah, I believe that all the stakeholders here should be working for the good of the great Makerere. It is really important for the student community to get involved in elections and campaigns. This is really going to help the country. And the policies that should be adopted should be those ones that can even be carried out after the university.
Yes.
We should not only be looking at ourselves at the exclusion of others. Let the students consider other stakeholders. Let the management also consider other stakeholders.
Yes.
That way we shall have a good life.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Sunrise at Sea.
Welcome.
Well, that has been Councillor Senkezi Stephen Sally, and he's been, joining me and weighing in on the matter in regard to the Makerere University Guild election wows. And we hope that anytime soon, maybe before, the ultimatum that was given to the University Council by the students, that before it actually elapses, before the 2 weeks elapse, that maybe feasible solutions will have been provided to the students at Makerere University. Well, that is all we had for you in this segment of the Twitter Jabs. Coming up is our views. Keep watching Sunrise at Sea and don't blink.